How we doing? Welcome to episode 30. That's 30 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. If you are in the junk removal, demo, deconstructive, tear it down, build it up space, you've come to the right place. We are here to talk about how you can grow, scale, get out of this amazing world in the waste industry that we call the junk removal subcategory. As always, I'm Andy Weins, right here in the great state of Wisconsin, joined by my good friend and compatriot who's filing papers apparently today. Filing papers like he's got stats to report on his 5-0 Cooper Cup-led Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush, whatever.
Cooper Cup's a receiver.
Cooper Cup, Cooper Rush. All I know is the cat is whatever. 5-0 in his career. 4-0 for America's second favorite team, Dallas Cowboys. How are you doing, Casey, Bubba Lawrence, coming off a big Sunday?
Pretty good. It was a great Sunday. It was a great game. And how about them Cowboys? Let me tell you.
I don't know what we're going to talk about in spring because I don't give a shit about baseball or basketball. We don't have a hockey team. So
we'll just talk about the Cowboys more.
Oh, my God. Yeah, they're disappearing off season and how Mike McCarthy has terrible time management in the fourth quarter. Let's talk about that.
Oh, man.
You've experienced,
but I guess we have a guest today. So that's the coolest part.
Oh yeah, Casey, what are we talking about? I forgot my line. My line is, "Hey Casey, what are we talking about today?"
Today we're talking about how much Brad Herda loves the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh my God, he's a Lions fan.
That's not happening. Sorry,
that's not happening.
We have a guest. His name's Brad, and we're going to learn a little bit about who he is, what he does, and why he does it, and at the same time, how he knows the great Andy Weins as well.
Oh my God, this might have to be a 2-part episode. There's so much greatness.
My gosh.
I do appreciate he's got a camo shirt, he's got a camo hat. Most importantly, though, he's got a red tip to match his jacket. Right? That's how Brad is. I've known Brad for years. Hell of a transition. He's known as just the tip Brad in some circles. But what he's going to talk to us today, right? He's a business coach that supports businesses as they transition. They're like multi-generational businesses, typically manufacturing, light industrial. But his job is to prep them to transition, whether they're going to go into an ESOP program, employee stock option program. I think that's what it's called.
Stock ownership.
There we go. Stock ownership. See, smart guy. Knows words. I just know acronyms. Also talks about how to put your business in a position to sell. Casey, you sold. It's interesting. We talk about at the top of the podcast all the time about how you get in or get out. And getting out is also important. What is your goal? Is your goal to scale and make an empire? Is it to scale and get out, right? So Brad's he has a verse knowledge in that. The other thing he has a podcast where he talks to old people and young people and everybody in between. So it's the blue collar, what is it officially? The blue collar generational talk to millennial talk podcast, something like that.
I'm glad you're prepped for the show, Andy.
I got prepped. I got a beef stick, a cheese stick, and a glass of water.
Cheese sticks and milk.
Venison
milk
for the record.
Okay.
Venison. I went bow hunting last week for the first time. I saw a fucking raccoon. The loudest animal in the history of man. The loudest raccoon ever. Anyways, Brad.
The podcast is called Blue Collar BS, where we talk about...
I was pretty close.
You're pretty close. We talk about multi-generational problems, right? Why boomers can't hire young kids and why young kids don't want to work for boomers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. So Casey, I'll let you decide. Do we want to go down the how do you build and prep and put your company in a position to sell? Or do we want to go down this is why generations are struggling to work together?
Well, I think it's really important, specifically for this podcast, that we go with the first one. I mean, prepping to not just sell, but prepping to do what you're supposed to do and what you're wanting to do. Like, for instance, Brad, like when we sold, we actually learned a lot about business in general by selling, because in the beginning, you're not taught the same things as you are in the end. Because in the end, you're like, hey, man, I need you to buy this company. I need you to buy this company because it's worth so much money. But in the beginning, you're taught, hey, this company's not worth anything because the government's going to want a lot of money for it. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay. So taxes was a big thing for us. We found out that, as a small business, you want to not pay taxes your first year. Well, you know what? Tank your freaking company on paper. But the problem with that is, if you want a successful exit, now banks are going to be looking at you like, hey, you're crazy. So
Right. Oh, by the way, year 1 was 0. Okay, cool. What year 2? 0.
Yeah.
Oh, year 3, 0.
Oh, okay.
Mr.
Yeah.
Tax advisor, thanks for helping me out. Right.
Yeah, no
Right.
taxes. Also, you're worth nothing. You are worth what your last 3 years of profit and loss statements say you're worth.
Well, and that's the biggest. I think the most important thing is, what does every small business struggle with, and that is capital. And if you don't have the capital, well, if you're doing your thing to be very tax exempt, well, now you kind of alleviate the issue of, can I get a loan? Because now you can't get a loan if your company is not worth anything.
You're not.
That's the other thing is,
you're not bankable at all.
So yeah, elaborate. That's great.
Yeah, you're not bankable, and running your business and your life through the same credit card doesn't help either. And
No.
so knowing how to get out is far more important than knowing how to get in to a relationship or into a business. So you know what you got to do, and all the things to do to get out of a business are all the same things you should do when you got into the business. It's just in different steps, different phases, different things. Whether it's accountability, whether it's your tax advisor, right? Oh, we don't want to pay taxes. Well, I get it. We don't want to pay them. They suck. But they're also a sign of success, right? That means that you actually did something. That means you actually made some money along the way. You actually took something and put something in for yourself, hopefully along the way. There's a great book from Mike McCallowitz, Profit First. I don't know if you guys have ever talked about that on this show or whatever, but that is a great book.
It is a good book.
We're meeting him next week, aren't we?
Next month.
Mike McCown.
Yeah, he's the keynote speaker at
I see.
JunkCon, I thought.
He's at JunkCon too?
I thought I had his book.
Yeah, that's an awesome book, Profit First, to start out with. And if anybody is starting a business, they should just start with that. From a financial,
I think that's a big. I think when you first start going, you don't think of profit in the sense of necessity or a difference of revenue, right? Because when you're first getting started, you're just thinking, "Oh, I made this money," but you don't think in terms of, well, you made money, but did you make profit? And a lot of, especially in junk removal, because you start seeing, oh, I got paid $15 an hour, but then I started my junk removal company and I'm making $500 a day. But why at the end of the year are you upside down? Yeah. Well, because I had to pay this and this and this. So that, of course, they're going to try to say, I don't want to owe any money to the government. I want to keep that money. The problem is what it's doing is devaluing your own business, that now you can't attract credit. You can't attract any kind of grants. Did you know you can't even qualify for a grant in some states unless you show profit. Unless you are a startup, pre-sale. And that's a huge thing you don't know until, of course, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. And being able to put that out there and knowing that, hey, profit is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, money is the motivator for us to be able to do greater things in our lives, right?
Right.
If you're doing it if your business is there just to support you and your family, and that's it, and that's all you want, and that's your pinnacle, that's a very different game than trying to hire people, have a true company. If you're just the guy going up and down the alleyways, that's a different story. But if you're building out the company, the employees, the infrastructure, the buildings, all that other stuff, it's really important to know what your profit is and know what it costs you every day to wake up.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of contractors, materials times 1.4, that's my sell price. And they wonder why they got like $3 left at the end of the job, because they forgot about the extra $600 a day that they've got to cover in their buildings, their equipment, all those other things that they forget about.
Yeah.
Yeah. The operational cost. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, a lot of our audience are, there's a range. I would say the three ranges are the guys that are doing it part-time or wanting to get in, like they haven't pulled the trigger yet. The guys that are just getting in and they're a few months in. And then there's figuring things out, right? They're 6 months to 12 months in, maybe a little bit more, but a lot of them are still in the truck. And then the third group are, regardless of how long they've been in, I'd say at least 6 months, maybe, or at least over a year, but they're in the, I'm out of the truck, but I made more money when I was in the truck, people, right? Because now it's, right now they have these things called employees that cost money. So from me, right, I think about things operationally, right? I'm like, hey, let's reduce costs. Let's reduce, the money I got to get paid Uncle Sam. Brad, what are some of the things that you've seen in your career, the mistakes made, and what are the corrections? Because we don't want to just talk about, okay, this is the shit you're doing wrong, but what are the corrections or the mindset changes you have to have in those times in your business so that you keep that end state in mind if you do want to exit or have the ability to, it's not just exit, but you might have something catastrophic happen and you have to sell the business, right?
Well,
yeah.
Or like you said, you might need to go get a line of credit and you're not in that position. So what are some of those things you need to do early and often and be mindful of so that you're putting yourself in a position to be successful 4 years down the road?
So like Case talked about, it's the capital, right? It's what does your cash flow look like, right? Cash is king. So the financial advisors or the accountants that come out at the end of the year when we have those great years where we get to do full depreciation on equipment and gear, you got some cash sitting there and they say, hey, go buy a new truck for 60 grand in cash so we can fully depreciate it and have it all happen. That is so we can avoid $10,000 in taxes. Don't do that. Right? If you have a financial advisor that's telling you that or a tax planner that's telling you that, please find somebody else because you're just asking.
Talk to three. That's what I tell people. Like, I can never give you advice on taxes, but I will say, whenever you get advice from someone, talk to 2 more people and get advice from them because even if one says no, now you got it offsets the yes. So now go find 2 more.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't find people that are just going to agree with your strategy. For the first couple of years in business, I was very headstrong on this is the way I want to do things.
You were
very anti. Yeah, true story.
Really?
I was very anti-paying taxes. And then I'm like, I should get a loan. And they're like, you can't get a loan. I'm like, well, look at all this revenue I have. And look at what my profit and loss statements say. They're like, no, we see that. But then we also see all the shit you wrote off every year, which is good from a tax perspective. So you got to find that sweet spot, right? What is the dollar amount you want to pay so you stay under a certain tax rate? You don't want to show $300,000 in profit and pay a high percentage, but you also don't want to show $3,000 in profit and pay no tax, right? And the truth is somewhere, 30, 50, 70, 100. The truth is somewhere in there at what percentage tax you want to pay, and then keep it consistent over time.
Right, which is why the McCallus book is fantastic, and I'm glad to see that he's going to be talking to folks in this space. Because so here's the biggest failure of that process. It's so simple that people don't do it because they don't believe it. Because it is super ass simple. It is as simple can be, and it's not that hard, and it achieves amazing results. But you pay yourself first, which is where most people don't think about. Hey, you pay yourself first.
I didn't do that for years. I still mindset wise struggle to do that. I pay myself now, but I'm like, why do I have money in my checking account when all I want to do is reinvest in my business anyways? Right?
Well,
it's a weird perspective, but it sets the baseline of what's acceptable.
Correct.
Yeah. So real quick, I want Brad's take on this, Andy. I would say the first 2 years when we started, we were with J-Dog, right? We were just getting our feet underneath us, right? We had no idea what we were doing, no history, no experience in junk removal or anything. And the first year we showed a loss, right? Second year showed a loss because at the time also we were not planning on exiting when we did. So we had a game plan, we had a strategy, but it didn't end as quick as it naturally did. So when I tell people about what I learned through the sales process, like we did really good when we sold our company, and partly because the last 2 years, like we couldn't even show a lot. Like even if we tried, it was.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it was. Like the 4th year we went debt free, and after that it was kind of like, all right, we can't really hide money anymore.
Not legally anyhow.
You're not hiding it. You're parlaying it for future years. That's all you're doing.
Right, but I mean, so. What I learned after the process, though, I started reading more books. I mean, like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad kind of things, Think and Grow Rich, those kind of things. I started talking about money management, and I started reading more, and I started realizing, man, if I was back in year 4, year 5, I would buy more assets in my company with that profit to keep making more profit because everybody's afraid of taxes because they don't understand it. It's not because it's the bad thing to do. If they don't understand how taxes could be, not bad. So what is your take on, let's say you have someone right now, they're a few months in, right? 6 months, 7 months. And so far they're not tracking everything they need to track. They have a big stack of cash under their mattress because they are afraid of a bank account. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They don't know what to do with all their money. Well, I mean, what would you advise them because they don't want to pay taxes to the government at the end of the year?
Well, one, I try to find them the right resources, right? Who are, like you said, who are the right bookkeepers? Because at the end of the day, at some point, you still got to file your end of the year stuff anyhow. So who's doing that? Are they doing it themselves or are they not doing it themselves? I'm going to advise every business owner to go don't ever file your own business taxes. I don't care if it's a Schedule C on your own LLC. Do not ever do that because you need somebody else to take away that liability for you and say, hey, this is what's going on, and take yourself out of that equation altogether because you're not the expert in tax prep. Let the experts. Yeah. So it's the who, not how scenario, right? Who can prepare my taxes that I can trust, that are going to have the value alignment with me, and then who's the bank that I can find, their bank resource that can take my cash, make a small investment, put it in another investment account so I can maybe make some money on that versus just having it sit underneath my mattress doing nothing. You know, get the credit card for the business, get the line of credit if you can get it now instead of later, because nobody gives you a line of credit when you need one. When you don't need it is the time you need to go get it.
And I would even say any line of credit. I mean, even $200 is something to start on. Like, no shit. Get a fuel card. You know, any kind of line of credit.
Yeah. You know, so finding those right financial partners, because most of the time I find people are afraid because they don't know what they don't know. So finding somebody in your own circle that you know and trust to make those connections and resources for you is the biggest thing you can do at the start, is find the right people to surround yourself with. Because if you can surround yourself with people that are smarter than you in the areas that you're weak at, you're going to be far better off.
Brad, words matter. We don't have weaknesses. We know this. We don't have weaknesses. We have strengths, and we have things that aren't strengths.
Okay, your non-strengths. So surround yourself with people that are better at your non-strengths.
There we go, right? Or strengths lower down the chart, right? Just like Brad. So I'm in another group with Brad, and when you correct somebody's vernacular, it's called getting herded. Because so when someone's like, "Oh, if this customer calls back, or if I land this job," no, it's never if, it's when. When you land that big contract, right? So words fucking matter. I'm writing a book coming out Q1 of 2023. Watch out. There we go. Shameless plug. 17 and a half minutes into this podcast, I already thanked our sponsor, me.
Hit the button. Where's the clapping?
Yay! For the book that's coming out. Hey, you know, Brad, I'm going to throw this out to our audience. You know what? We are accepting applications for people that want to be financial partners, i.e.
absolutely
pay so we can pay for production and more marketing to get this podcast out to the masses. So there is our shameless 30-second plug. We had to have it in before the 20-minute mark. You're welcome, America.
Who do they contact, Andy?
Contact Casey.
You or
Casey in charge.
Contact me.
Yeah, Casey's in charge.
I'll get you set up.
I'll tell you what, I'm in charge of showing up, looking good, telling jokes. That's what I do. You know, Taylor.
2 out of 3 is not bad.
The 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I didn't show up on time, so good thing I'm beautiful. So Taylor in the other room, he's the production. Casey's marketing. I set the vision, which my vision is, hey, let's have a podcast. I'll see you on Monday. Yeah. That's the vision I've cast. And let's have smart people like Brad on. All right.
I don't know about that.
So
this might be taking it down a notch. I'm not sure.
There you go. So I love what you're saying. Simple, right? Get the line of credit, get cash, or get access to cash, right? When you don't need it. All right, which is a good lesson in business, right? When do you need a market? When your phone's ringing, right? You need a market when your phone's ringing, just like you need to hire employees before you need them. You need to go get capital before you need it, right? So get things when you can, because mid-February is not the time to get capital when you could have got it back in October, right? October, you got a nice, strong profit and loss statement.
And so here's the other thing is a lot of us, we do these really big jobs that to us, they seem really cool. They seem really big. Oh, I'm going to show everybody. But they forget, is it profitable? Right? Oh, man, this was I did $3,000 job today. How much did you take home after all expenses? Oh, I don't even know. So shut up and figure that out first, because you'll be surprised what picking up trash cans versus demoing a house yields you. And I'm going to tell you right now, my most profitable jobs were the simplest, the most boring, and the most consistent ones, not the big extravagant ones. Right?
Yeah. Right.
And I think we get confused on that. Because
everybody wants the big job, so they go in and they put whatever price on it because the guy has leverage. Well, if I price it too high, he's not going to go with me. So you're pricing from a scarcity model. You're coming from a scarcity place versus an abundance place. If you're really good at what you do and you can provide the right value and the right service, they're going to pay you regardless. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you are the best at what you do, there's nothing to be afraid of to price your price so that you are profitable in all situations.
Love it. I love this guy, Andy.
I know.
The other thing from a startup perspective that you can't do, stop the bartering.
Yeah.
Stop bartering your shit away, right? Because you can't put that on the income statement. You can't do anything with that. Worst case scenario, put the invoices out there, right? Throw the invoice so at least you show that it did it. Have them invoice you back so it's at least you can offset credits.
Exchange of goods. Correct. Because if it's a complete offset, it has no impact on your financials.
Correct.
You both say, yep, look at this revenue. We banged it out, got her done.
Correct. But instead of the barter job of saying, hey, I'm going to do this for you, you do this for me, you take care of my cars or take care of my storage, I'll clean this out. It doesn't do any good for anybody. Especially
do it even trade or equivalent. So one of the biggest things I did first summer in business, I did jobs for free for people that were going to go open doors for me. I can't even tell you how dead they are to me because, right? Like, see how fun. I remember this one lady, Jenny, can't remember her last name. I'm not going to mention the company because I don't need to burn her, right? She'll hang herself. But she was a senior living transitioning specialist. She's like, hey, if you just demo out my Fourier, I'm gonna introduce you to like 5 different senior living companies, right? So we demo it. It's a fucking complete pain in the ass. It was a shit job. Took us longer than expected because that's just how it fucking goes. And then on top of it, she made fucking email introductions. I'm like, I could have got farther. Yeah. And then now I got a bad taste in my mouth for her. The other thing is, Casey talks about this. You can't have a race to the bottom. Because who you attract early in your business is who you're going to attract often in your business. If you don't hold the standards, like, no, I get paid. Like, you get paid, I get paid. That's how this fucking works. If you don't value what I bring, the solution I provide, this isn't going to work. And again, going to profit first, you're selling yourself short.
No one likes hearing the word no, especially when it's from themselves. They don't know how to say it. They want to be the yes man. They want to be the yes person. And they go into these jobs and they look back and like, man, I've been real busy lately, but I have nothing to show for it. It's because you've been busy, not productive.
Busy.
You know,
exactly. Busy ain't a fucking skill. Anybody can be busy.
And that's I think when you're, go ahead, Brad.
The answer to that question, when people want to say yes, the key there is to say yes and right. Yes, and it's going to be this much money, and I can do it on Thursday. Is that okay? Right, not yes, I can do it, and I'm coming at it, and I'll just take care of it. I'll do it right now. I'll jump on. It'll be the most important thing because you know what, the person on the other end could give 2 shits if it's the most important thing to you, but it's not. To them. They just want.
You're gonna hurt their feelings, Brad. But I'm just saying, like, look, if you say no to these customers, I hate to break it to you, they're gonna call somebody else.
That's why the yes and always works.
Yes and.
Yeah.
Yes. And this is when he's great. This is also don't hesitate. Like what you said, tell people when it works for you at the price that you've already predetermined is your price. So Ken, our GM last week, he went out did an estimate in an area of town that we don't do a lot of jobs, and he went in there. It was like 3.5 trailers. It was like $2,700 project, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't think it was going to be that much. It was like 3.5, 4 trailers, whatever it was." And Ken's like, well, it's going to take us, 4 guys all day, 2 trucks, whatever. Like just kind of laying out this is what it's going to take. She goes, oh, I just didn't think it was going to be this much. He's like, so in his head, he's like, I can give her a discount. But he's like, well, how much did you think it was going to be? She's like, well, just a couple $100. So it's like, all right, she was at $500. We're at $2,700. Right? This is not 10% discount's not going to get it over the line.
Right.
And Ken had this moment. I'm like, but Ken, here's the deal. It wasn't our job from the word go. We just didn't know that yet. Right? When you talk to somebody on the phone, you can prep the battlefield a little bit, but you also don't want to scare people off. Right? That same house, well, a small pile of somebody is a big pile of somebody else. So what you have to do is you have to go out there and investigate it, because there's no such thing as good news or bad news. We know if we go out and do an estimate, we win 75% of our estimates. So 25 are going to fall off. And we can do a better job of scrubbing our customers and asking questions. At the end of the day, there are times we're going to do an estimate, and the cost associated to get the project done is not seen as valuable by the other person. Now, I can argue all day and be like, hey, the sooner you get the $2,700, like, I will guarantee you will make that money up if you get the project done in the next 90 days, because you're going to pay $2,700 in taxes, utilities, and other fees to maintain a property for 3 months. And also, let's not forget, like, with interest rates going up and the market turning downward, you might lose $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 value on that property in 90 days. I can explain this shit till I'm blue in the face, or I can say, hey, here's our price. It's good for 30 days. You let us know right, what works for you. And if they come back and tell you you're fucking crazy, sounds good. I guarantee. But the market's already proved that they'll pay me for my time.
Well, and that's the thing. You have to understand your business, right? Are you in the business of picking up trash for other people? Yes and no. I'm mainly in the business for doing something else while they can enjoy their time for them, right? And that's the thing, is how much are they going to spend to get a task done? And that's why, like, for me, the reason I liked what he said about, yes and, is because most of my operations were in between Dallas and Fort Worth, and the median income was insane where we were. So I always tried not to. I didn't want anything to be price based. Oh yeah, we're the best priced around. I didn't care if we were the best price. We're the best people. I said we're the best company, and if they want to know our price, I'll tell them. But the minute I told this to all my guys, the minute they bring up price, you have to understand that's when they don't give a shit. All they care about is the money. So be prepared to say no. And they're like, well, what if it's like, I mean, it doesn't matter. The minute they're like, oh, well, this person over here is cheaper, I say respectfully, you can call them if you want to pay that. Because at the end of the day, whose business is it? They're not taking care of your business. Yep. And I feel like they get emotionally involved with doing these jobs. So they don't want to say no and piss off a customer because, oh, well, it could be a good job. I really need this $400 minus $355. So, man, that $45 really sounds good tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Like, it doesn't really resonate.
Don't go to Quick Trip 4 times and you'll save the $45.
There you go.
There you go. They don't have Quick Trips. They got Casey's.
Casey's.
Well, we do. We have QTs. We have Quick Trips with Qs.
That ain't a fucking Quick Trip. Don't get me started on your wannabe Quick Trips. Actually,
we have Buc-ee's. We have Buc-ee's.
Or not Buc-ee's. What I'm saying, right? Casey's. Yeah, Buc-ee's. You have Buc-ee's. Let me tell you about Buc-ee's. I watched a documentary the other day on Vox about Buc-ee's. Y'all are serious about your beaver pellets, them
beaver nuggets
y'all eat, beaver nuggets. I'm not gonna lie. When I picked up, my brother and I flew down to San Antonio one time and drove a truck back to Chicago when we had our franchises all over. We stopped by you. Didn't we stop by you in Dallas for a night? Thought we
came by. Remember you had that box truck you're driving back.
It was a box truck we were driving. Anyways, I went to a Buc-ee's. Fucking amazing. What a fucking! They came out of Houston, so I watched watched this video. They don't have that many locations. They only have like 57 locations.
They just branched out into different states.
They're fucking huge, but you're correct. They're massive. It makes them feel like they're bigger. Quick Trip's got 400 locations in Wisconsin alone.
Let's put it this way: if they have a documentary on a fucking gas station, that means they're doing something right.
Okay, first of all, it ain't that right, because when you look at the top 10 gas stations voted by America, Quick Trip's number one. Okay, you got your pilots up there. You got, what it is. You guys have some of the most loyal fans, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at this article.
Brad, you can get everything done in Buc-ee's. Okay, you can go in, you can eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can go shopping, high end shopping.
Well,
and
Texas high end.
Fill up your truck or RV outside. At the same time, you can go get the latest in barbecue cookware, whatever you need.
But you can't
your beer, your wine.
But you can't do. No, you can't do. You can't fill up your 18-wheeler.
No, no trucks allowed.
No trucks allowed.
Yeah.
Which is right. Yeah. It's not a truck. It's not a truck stop. Which
look at Love's and look at Buc-ee's. Look at a Pilot truck stop and look at Buc-ee's.
I know. Yeah,
you don't want families going into Pilot or Love's. You want them to go into Buc-ee's.
All right, hold on. Let's, Casey, we don't have to debate this. Let's see what America says. The best U.S. gas stations brand, 2022. Oh my God! Look at that sign, La Crosse, Wisconsin, coming at you.
Oh my
gosh. Quick Trip, best gas station in the United States for a third year in a row. third year. That's a dynasty.
How many are there? 400?
Fucking dynasty.
400 versus 18.
Oh my God, Buc-ee's, you didn't even make the top 10. You got beat.
Probably
you
not.
got beat by Loves in the racetrack.
Okay.
Oh my God!
You know why? Because Buc-ee's isn't trying to be on your little quick station list.
Oh my God! How pathetic! How pathetic is that? Casey, what do you got to
Buc-ee's
say
is
about
yes
that?
and. No, not just yes. Quick Trip is a yes. Buc-ee's is yes and.
Quick Trip is yes and fried chicken. Okay, beef sticks. So growing up, we my grandparents lived up north, and we'd always drive up north, and there wasn't a bypass. We'd have to drive through Fond du Lac, which is like, it means like the bottom of the lake in French. Goddamn French fucking things up. Anyway, so there was a quick trip on the.
There, Andy, you know that, right?
There wasn't the largest, incorrect, Lake Winnebago, which was not a lake at first. It was a bunch of reeds and lowland. They dammed it up. Largest man-made lake in the country, only 40 feet deep at its deepest. They got sturgeon up there you spear. They're like 4 feet long, prehistoric, no big deal. Not bragging on Wisconsin, but it is the greatest state in the union. Anywho, we used to stop at this quick trip on the way up north and get beef sticks and bananas. There were 29-cent pound bananas, and like that's what they're known for. They're known for 29-cent pound bananas and like Wenzel's beef sticks. There we go. At the 30-minute mark, we are plugging the Quick Trip. Again, Quick Trip. All my Quick Trip listeners out there, feel free to sponsor. Actually, so Brad and I are part of this group called the Idea Collective. About 160, 170 business owners, all different branches. I'm the only junk removal guy in there, naturally.
Weird.
Imagine that.
Right? And Quick Trip is one of our official
I love
sponsors. So when I teach classes, I teach the 6 Buckets of Business class. You know, I always bring it in Andy Weins with basic training with Andy Weins, brought to you by our good friends at the Quick Trip and Bank 59 here in Wisconsin. So you know, I plug the Quick Trip. They pay me to do it. I don't get paid, but somebody gets paid. Actually, I pay to be part of it. $2 Tuesdays. You get the pasta dishes for $2 off. You buy a couple of them, you can freeze them. They're delicious. Anyway, shameless plug. Quick Trip for our listeners out there. If you got a better gas station, first of all, you're wrong. Second off, I'd like to hear about it because I do love me a good gas station.
Gosh, I just
Casey,
Googled.
back to you.
Just real quick, I just Googled Buc-ee's, and it says, "What is Buc-ee's famous for?" And the only answer was, "Buc-ee's is from Texas." Enough said.
That's it.
Enough said. And I was like, I like it.
Not for
Okay.
Not for nothing. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean,
Exit window.
All right, so back to the program now that we had a total fucking shit show side note. All right, so let's talk about this. Things you need to do early in business: show a profit. Don't be afraid of taxes. Get cash available when you don't need.
Ask for credit.
Ask for credit, or no, you're right, not cash. Ask for credit when you don't need it, because the worst that's going to happen is you never need it. Right?
Yes.
That's the worst case. Best case is you need it.
Get the business credit card. Stop paying everything through your personal credit cards. I don't care, right? Get the business credit card, whatever it might be. Oh, the interest rates are too high. Find the Chase Inc. Find the whatever. Find the opportunity to get your business credit card to establish your business credit.
Thank you. So one of the companies I just started consulting for, I had a call with them, the husband and wife team, and a third owner. Casey went away. He's gone. Anyways, so they had a third owner, whatever, and their argument was they were using their business debit card. And I said, here's the deal. Here's your course of action. First and foremost, you go into the bank. Don't fill it out online. You go into the bank. You do a hard copy. I learned this from Chase, right? You go into the bank. You fill out the hard copy credit app for your business. You show them whatever P&L you got. I don't care if you got 6 months worth. Show them that. They'll go against. It's going to go against your personal credit anyways. But get that credit card. If you can't do that, then go get a credit card in your personal name and use it exclusively for business purchases. You know, link it to your QuickBooks account, right? That's your second course of action. Third course of action, and I do not recommend this. This is if you are a non-credit worthy individual, use your debit card for purchases. Now, there's a lot of reasons. Top 3 reasons you never want to use a debit card for purchases. I think I've said it on this podcast before. I don't care. I'm going to say it again because it's not my advice. This is the Mark Cubans and Warren Buffett's of the world saying this. These are the 3 reasons why you only use credit cards in your business, whether it's business card preferred or a personal credit card. This is why. First and foremost, it's not your money until it is your money. So what that means is if there's a fraudulent charge or anything suspicious, it's not your money. If it's a debit card, it's your money and it's gone. The credit card company doesn't give a shit because it was your money. If you got a Discover card or a Chase card, it's their money. They are acting as the bank. Until you pay that statement off, it's their money. So they're going to fight like hell to get it back. And more often than not, I know somebody I know I was helping with a budget recently. They had $600 in fraudulent charges in one day in February, right? They called the credit card company, they wiped it, $600 came right back. Now that credit card company might be out the $600, but they don't care. They'd rather retain their customer than fight for $600. Reason number one. Reason number two, you got up to 60 days to pay on those purchases. Just like you have some of your customers that are on net 30 or net 45, you got 60 days to pay. If I make a purchase, let's make a simple hillbilly math here. October 1, I make a purchase. And my statement comes out November 1. That statement isn't due until November 31st. Or 30th. There's no 31st. 30th of November. I bought myself 60 days to pay. So now it's like a small loan, right? And it builds credit. Debit doesn't. Third reason, points, right? Points, cash back, whatever the fuck it is, use it. Your business will need that. Or you cash out those airline, right? And that's a way to incentivize yourself, pay yourself without paying yourself, right? If you want to avoid the tax man. It's a way, right? You have to claim the redemption in some capacity. That's between you and your tax guy, right? But a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to do it just
that redemption
for points.
is not taxable as of
this year.
Still this year.
Okay, there you go. Non-taxable redemption income, fucking use it. Use it. Whether you use it to pay down your credit card, you pay it to go on a flight, you make your Amazon purchases, right? And then you can go watch some YouTube videos on guys that rape credit card companies. Some men and women out there make a living by just getting credit cards and fucking free Tupperware and flipping it, right?
Yeah.
So there's your...
So those the points and the cash back cards, all those other things, I would also urge you, if you're doing the cash back, and don't have it go to your principal, have it stored, right? And let
Why is that?
Be because now I can use it. You can use it as that redemption, as that reward later on, and say, hey, you know what? It's not costing me. I've already paid all my stuff.
Yeah.
I can use that as an incentive to come back, particularly if you're not going to do any profit first stuff where that stuff gets stuck away. You can use it kind of as your slush fund. And now all of a sudden, if you're doing, let's just say you're doing $10,000 a month in credit card, rolling that over, it's 2% back. Just keep that 2% for yourself later on, and go celebrate use it for your celebration. Use it for your small wins. Use it for something to take your bride, your spouse, your significant other, whatever. Do something that you normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Instead of making it operational, keep it as a reward, because sometimes that early on phase, there's no rewards, there's no benefit, there's no nothing, because you're grinding all the time.
Yeah. Celebrate what you can. I do remember that. Like I used to use my points every month just to pay down my credit card because we were just bootstrapping the whole way. And then I let it go for a couple months, and I was like, man, how big can I make this pot, right? And then you're like, oh, this is fucking awesome. Like I had over 100,000 points at one point on one of my cards. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Now I ended up using it. I can't remember what I used it for, but you're right. It is that every month you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? Because a lot of times you look at your bank statement, you see stuff that you're not excited about because shit happened, right? Almost rarely is there more money that you anticipate. Often it's less. All right. So those are the things we need to do to prep ourselves early in business to be successful for later in business. I want to talk about that second point that we briefly talked about. I want to dive into it because this is another one of your disciplines. Let's talk about the challenges that we are having in the world today, hiring, maintaining, retaining employees as we go through this junk removal journey. What are some things that you've seen that have been successful, tidbits? What are things that people that are doing that are unsuccessful? Let's talk about the employee landscape workforce because it's not all doom and gloom, and it shouldn't be all, oh, there's no good help out there. Right.
That's
so let's talk about that. I know it's a lie. So what's the truth?
The truth is there's lots of good people out there, just no matter what lens you're looking through. Too often we want to hire the same person that's us, right? Because I don't want to do the work anymore. So I got to hire somebody that can do the work just as good as me, just as opportunistic as me, all the same characteristics and traits. Well, you are the unicorn because you are the business owner and the expertise and all those other things. So why are you trying to hire people? You're trying to hire people typically because you want to grow, or you don't want to do the things that you're doing today. So if you don't like doing it, why do you think the same exact person as you would also want to do that job?
That's a good point. It's good. Yeah,
just questioning right there. So
just throw that out there.
One. If you don't like it, why would somebody just like you also like it?
Yeah, so when it's not correct, when it's not theirs too. On top of that, it's not theirs.
Right.
It's yours, not theirs.
So finding the people that fit the role, and there's psychology and all sorts of stuff behind that, and there's certain behaviors that like doing different things and all that. But just from a generational perspective, the Gen Zs, that 25 and younger crowd, they're just different. They learn different. They do things differently because of this device right here that we all have available. Mm-hmm. You're both younger guys. I'm sure you do a lot of shit on your phones, and that's not that big of a deal. But their whole lives have been scheduled since they've been 5 years old. So the whole, what do I do? That whole, what do I do next? How do I got done with this job. What do I do next besides dick around for 20 minutes? That part you got to teach because they don't know what to do next because they do the 5 things you told them to do and then they're done. Brain shuts off, go on and figure out something else. So that leadership style of learning and teaching from an ownership perspective is a challenge, particularly in a new organization or in a growing organization, because it's I don't have time. So therefore, I'm not going to put the effort in. I'm going to always do that same shit that I don't want to do anymore. And then I just keep losing time instead of teaching somebody to do it. And if they do it differently, Casey, before the show, you were talking about how you and Andy, when you first met, you were getting the same results, just doing it differently. Mm-hmm. Focus on the results, not the task.
Well, and I think that's how him and I became close and actual friends and talked more because we're like, wait a minute, we're bitching at each other, but the results are the same. So what's the point of us saying, no, my way's better, no, my way's better? It is about the results.
Correct. Our results were different because we also had different goals.
Oh, so different landscapes and
Correct. The similarity of results were the fact that we were high achieving, right? Compared to our counterparts, we were top tier, right? At one point, there was about 100 franchises roughly at our franchise system, and you and I were consistently in the top 5 as far as revenue gen and margin
growth
and
growth, profit,
profit, number of trucks, number of employees, all the KPIs that we consider to be important. We did things differently, but we both were very successful in our results. The downside was we did things our way, and franchisor didn't like that so much. Hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is, though.
But for anybody though, also, what does the path look like? Right? How do I go from the number 4 on the crew to be the grunt that is holding the broom to the number 2, to the number 3, to the number 2, to the number 1, to the guy that's not in the truck anymore? What does that career path look like? No matter if that kid's 18 years old or 48 years old, it's good business practice to know that, because when that guy off the street comes in, you're either going to pay him $15 an hour or $25 an hour, and there's a reason for it. Right. And if you can't document those dollars in between there and tell me why that is, other than just his resume looks good or her resume looks good, then you got a problem.
I think that's interesting because you just hit the nail on the head. I was just downstairs talking with one of our new guys, and he was telling me why he should get paid more, and I'm like, well, this isn't my conversation. I'm the manager for this, right? But the question I asked him was, hey, what's going on with your license right now? He's like, man, I'm working on that. I'm like, cool. Between now and when that's no longer being worked on, you're getting paid what you get paid, right? Because you haven't shown me the ability to do the next thing, which is drive the truck, right? To your point, I was consulting with Rachel and Rick last week. So Rachel and Rick with Awesome Rachel, who Brad knows and Bubba knows. So Awesome Rachel down in Tennessee, demo company, another shout out here at the 43-minute mark. Maybe she's
awesome, by the way. She
truly is awesome, right? Awesome Rachel. I was looking for my Make Today Awesome cup. I was drinking that coffee cup earlier, left it somewhere in the warehouse. Anyways, I was talking with them, and I was like, they're talking about how they need to hire someone, right? And their debate was, do we hire that $25 an hour would-be crew chief, right? Team lead, whatever, right? In the demo space, which much longer train up, or do we hire a, $12 to $15 an hour temporary bucket humping motherfucker, right? And they laughed. But I said, I started as a bucket humper, right? That's it. I started as a bucket humping motherfucker, and I turned into the owner, right? Because I humped buckets for my dad for years doing demo. And then eventually you hump the buckets up and down the fucking stairs long enough. Eventually you can use the hammer for like 10 minutes, right? For a day. And then you learn to tear down the walls. And then you learn to tear the tile down. And then you learn to, you do all the steps. And then by the time I left my dad's company, I led the demo team. So I peaked. I peaked at my father's company. And by leading the demo team, I meant it was me and my younger brother. Right? So I was the leader because I had the driver's license because I was older and I knew how to use the tools. And then my two brothers were the bucket humpers. But then we took that and turned it into, okay, if I know how to hump buckets and you know how to hump buckets, let's go do demo. Right. So really, even before we got into junk removal, we were doing demos. And then we got into junk removal, addition of scrapping. And now it's like with guys, right, if you can start as a bucket humper, right, there's more beyond that. But you have to start there. And you got to, it's not one of those like, I'm going to make you do it because it's a punishment. No, you got to understand if you can't hump buckets, you can't appreciate what it's like to hump buckets. And everybody here has done it. Our general manager has done it. I've done it. Everybody here has hump buckets.
So,
and you got to know
what
how
did
to
she
do
decide?
That. Who's she? What are you talking about?
Rachel.
Oh, I don't know.
You forgot your own fucking story? Look.
I don't know where Casey.
Here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. It's just like the military. Tell her it's just like the military. You know, in active duty, you only get a certain amount of slots per rank. And I'm going to tell you right now, people fought over privates rather than E4s, E5s. They didn't want them. They wanted privates.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
They're shapeable.
Because they are. Exactly. And that's when you were saying, should I get the 25 an hour or the grunt? I'm like, dude, get the grunt all day long.
Yeah. So
I would take two $12 an hours for 125.
Oh, easy. That is actually, I know what their decision is. Their decision is the $12 an hour bucket humping motherfucker. Because to your point, Rick, they're both CBs. Rick's like, I can train someone to do things my way, and this is our company. I'm like, awesome.
There you go.
Like, you're right. You're not wrong there. And Rick is particular and twitchy. A couple of his best traits. So because he's particular and twitchy, right? To Brad's point, if I was particular and twitchy, which I am, I'm not going to hire someone that thinks they know how to do it better. Be like, no. Right? Like, I'll teach you my way, and you can make my way better. But don't come in day one thinking you know more than me. That is a no-win proposition for all parties.
You wouldn't
Casey
hire
them.
You wouldn't hire them anyhow.
Yeah, Casey worked for me for a bit. We did a project together. He came in puffing his chest saying he knew how to do it better than me. How'd that work out for you, Case?
I was the one who went home.
He's got Bucky's.
He got buckied. Actually, at one point, Casey and I, we went to, I went down, he came up to Illinois. We trained together. We figured out how to do this project together. And then I went down to Texas. I'm like, I'm going to be with you at your first job site. And of course, like things go pretty smooth between the two sites. We're like, all right, we uncovered all the variables. We got this. He gets to his third job site.
Atlanta was the one that we both were at.
We beefed. No, I know. But we went to your second Texas job site and everything went to shit. He's calling me. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, figure it the fuck out. That's what you do. You figure it out. He was so mad. He was so mad. But then, and then like a week later, we were in California together and everything went to shit.
We lost all our people.
All of our people. We had all these.
They were? You lost them? They actually walked on?
No, they never showed up.
One guy just left.
Then we had one guy just walked, just straight up, like left. Like we're like,
left.
where? And left. Gone. Yeah. That was
well, good thing you know how to hump buckets.
Good, like worked with us,
dude. And then I had a friend fly in.
We flew a guy in.
Save of the day.
Yeah,
he flew in like, yeah, sure. And then we drove up to Stockton, banged that out. God. It was great. I wanted to say one thing real quick. I
forgot about what was that guy's
This happened
name?
Today. Daniel.
Anthony Daniel. Yeah, he had two first names.
Yeah, some of that.
Anyways, but never trust someone with two first names.
Yeah, Casey Bubba. So today I was returning a trash can. So we just moved to a house, and for some reason the trash company took our trash cans, which sucked. But good thing I know a great guy who bought a junk removal company from someone I know who has a lot of trash cans. So I called him and was like, hey, I need to borrow a trash can for a couple weeks till they bring us back. Anyway, so I was returning this trash can to their yard, and I saw a guy that I remember I hired him a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. He just turned 16 when I hired him. And I remember the job I put him in, this is right before I left the company too. But so I never got to really see it kind of fulfill that position. But I put him in, he was going to be in charge of the yard and recycling all the managerial roles for the warehouse. And I remember they're like, why? I'm like, well, because he's 16, so I can't even have him as a driver for 2 years. Right. I was like, it's going to be very difficult for me to keep him motivated as a side seater, as a right seater for 2 years. And I can't pay him more than a driver, So in 2 years, he's not going to even be getting paid as much as the guy driving. So I was like, this will be a great experience for him because he can learn how to do all this stuff. He can gain all this experience in management and how to sort whatever. And his pay will not reflect his position in the trucks at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw him today, and he came up to me, and we were small talking. He's thinking about, the future. And I asked him, and he's like, well, I've just been here for almost 2 years now, and I was like, it's exactly why I didn't want you in the truck, because no offense to him. I mean, he's a strong guy, but at 16 years old, I was looking at more than what can I use you for is what could I mold you into so that in 2 years when you're 18, you're worth more than in just an 18-year-old coming in the door, So it kind of sucks to see that, but
yeah.
That's just kind of you have to look at things a little differently, right? Like, how can I mold this person into something I could really get value out of?
Well, and then not only how you can get value out of them, but also you talked about how does he get paid on his value as well based on those results, and that's
right.
where and that's where it tends a lot of owners get caught in this trap of, well, this guy's been here 6 years, he's making $17 an hour. This guy's brand new, he's making 12. But if that guy that's brand new can demonstrate over and over and over again that he's outperforming the guy making 17, pay the
it won't take him 6 years.
Pay the $17.
Yeah.
Right. Pay the money because he's outperforming the other person. And the younger generation, they're not going to put up with the shit because they know better.
Yeah.
It's easy. They can go find out. People talk nowadays more so than ever before about wages and salaries and different things.
Oh,
and
yeah.
who's making what, and it's all over the place compared to what it used to be. For this old guy on this show right now today.
So I think we have him come back on, Andy, and we go over that. Because this is a huge reason I actually wanted to exit my company and get more of an role where I didn't have employees. Yeah. And it was because of how times were changing. And it was more of like, man, the good people, it's not that the good people are hard to find. It's that they're hard to keep because they don't want to do this shit that they don't have to do. And now even the people that are not good or bad, but the new, unexperienced, unskilled labor, now they're hard to keep, So that's a whole conversation on its own.
Yeah, we could have an entire call on how to maximize your workforce, right? By changing your mindset. That sounds like a good fucking title. Something like that. I mean, we could jump right into that. That's a huge piece of what we need as an industry. Because like I was at the Scrap Expo a couple weeks ago in Louisville, and they're like, yeah, all these these small scrap yards getting bought up by the big guys, and they're just using the yard. And they're getting rid of the operations because they're consolidating. It's like, how do you encourage guys that are third, fourth generation to own a scrap yard? And on top of it, how do you encourage employees, right, to work in a scrap yard or like what we do, humping buckets and junk removal, when you can go in a nice air conditioned warehouse for Amazon or go work at the Quick Trip for just as much money? And you have to be and that's not a rhetorical question. You got to answer that fucking question, because there's a lot of companies out there in manufacturing, and physically, demanding jobs that haven't answered those questions. Your bricklayers and carpenters and electricians, where there's no one to backfill them right now because we've sold this idea that you don't have to work hard anymore. And in junk removal, we're in a tough spot because it's not a company. Or I'm sorry, it's not an industry where we can bring people in that have a high level of skill, right? You don't need a CDL necessarily. You don't have to go to your technical school, right? But what you need to have a lot of is the will and the desire, because the skills are all on the job, right? And they're all based on how your company operates. Like us, you're going to learn how to recycle a lot more than the average junk removal company because the amount of company, right? So it's not that they don't have the ability to skills. It's not that they're not smart. It's just I can take someone that's fresh and teach them in a few weeks everything they need to know to be successful, and then you learn everything after that.
So here's let me just jump on that for a minute, because you mentioned something very good, right? They can learn more about how to recycle, right? So if Camo Crew is more about making sure the landfill isn't full and recycling over 80% of what you bring in is what you do.
Yep.
That purpose, that why is what you need to be promoting and talking about to attract people. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that sense of community. It's that sense of purpose. It's those sense of things. It's not just junk removal. It's not just, right. You said it earlier, Casey. It's about, you're making somebody else, you're allowing that family to go spend time at the lake house or on the boat or hunting or whatever it is, instead of cleaning out the fucking basement. Right?
Yeah.
Here you go. Just put this here. We'll come take care of it. You go hunting. Have a nice day. Right? You are making it easier. So that purpose of improving people's lives or whatever it is that your organizations do, that is where
that's the message.
That's where most businesses fail.
Yeah.
Because I got to hire somebody. I'm going to pay them $12 an hour, and that's all I need. No, I need somebody here to help me live out my purpose of this is what we're doing, and then the dollars will come along. This is the reason why, in my opinion, the restaurants and the fast food chains and everything, they've not been able to fill it because it's not about the dollars. Because if it was the dollars, if it was $15 an hour, if it was $20 an hour, every fucking McDonald's would be back thousands and thousands of applications because they're paying ridiculous money to do stupid things.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm a huge fan of Maslow. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs break down what your needs are as a human being, right? And so with that, if you only fulfill the bottom two needs, which are I just pulled it up to where I'll
security,
your safety, right? It's your security, right? So your psychological needs, air, water, food, shelter, right? Your safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, right? So you're not poverty, right? If you only speak to those needs, then you're only going to get it to people that are only living in that way, in that mindset. But once you start speaking and thinking and building the culture around those other things, then you can experience more. So for those that are watching the podcast versus listening, right? We're talking about that here. Here's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When you pull up, right, now you have love and belonging, and you have esteem, right? You have that sense of that you matter, right? And eventually self-actualization. And then eventually Maslow even added in another need. Of course, now I can't find it. I'll find it in here in a second, whatever. So whatever, it's beyond your basic needs. It is your psychological needs, right? It's your esteem, feeling of accomplishment, prestige. That's what matters. You have friendship and you have relationships at your place of employment that matter. It's the relationship you have with the customers, with your fellow employees, with the vendors or the customers that we work with on a regular basis, where you leave work feeling fulfilled, like I matter. I'm not a number. One of our listeners texted me this weekend saying he wants to get in the junk roll business because he's just employee number right? Six-digit number, that's who he is, and that's how he feels. What it is, yes, his safety, security, food, water, shelter, warmth, that is being taken care of. His basic needs, right? But if you're going to go out there being a basic bitch, all you're going to go is get basic people.
Right.
So you have to speak to and fill the psychological needs, and then eventually, right, the self-actualization. Achieving one's full potential, including creative activities. Allowing people to be themselves, work on how they're working just as much as what they're working on. And then recently, the addition to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm pulling it up here, is the last one, beyond self-actualization, is scrolling. I'll say, where did it go? Now
it's really exciting.
There it is. Yeah, self-transcendence. Transcendence, right? That's that sense of meaning. You can't have a sense of meaning of your life if you are concerned about how much money you're making.
Right.
Right. You have to challenge yourself beyond that. And this is the challenge not only to our listeners and the people that are running these businesses. You have to push yourself to have that self-transcendence. What is the sense of meaning, right? I'm put on this earth to get rid of landfills. That's my big, hairy, audacious goal. I want to share the stage with Jordan Peterson, be on the Joe Rogan podcast, and eventually make my living speaking to audiences, right? That's my sense of meaning, getting out there, sharing my voice in the world. That is my self-actualization, and then I'm transcending to this is the meaning of my life and why I was put on this planet. In order for that to happen, right, I have to bring people along the way with me. I have to fulfill their needs as we go up the tower. I have to talk about it and share it and challenge it and build a culture around it. Because if it's just, hey, I'm here to get paid and pay my bills, that's all you're going to attract.
Yep.
And it's difficult. It's like Les Brown talks about, right? It's difficult to chase your dreams when you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're right. It probably is. I know what it's like to be chucking a truck. I know what it's like to be a bucket humper. All the places that people have been, I have been there. I convinced myself for 7 years I wasn't ready to start my business because I didn't have the money. I didn't have a business partner. I had a wife and a kid I had to take care of. I didn't have a college degree. I convinced myself for all those years I wasn't ready, and it was true. I wasn't ready because I convinced myself of it. As soon as I started thinking beyond that, the business grew. As soon as I started taking people with me, the business grew.
Well, and you also see once you started your business, you realize that things you were afraid of beforehand you were able to deal with them as you went. So it wasn't like, well, I don't know how to do this. So instead of just doing anything, what are you just going to sit still? Well, you start and then you learn as you go. And you know what? Yeah, maybe you play catch up for 6 months on things that you probably didn't know beforehand. Now you know now, but now at least you're doing the thing. You've actually started the process.
You're 6 months farther than you would have been if you would have done nothing.
Correct.
Right.
You got to eat the
bad
elephant.
decision is better than no decision.
100%. Talk to anybody in the military or Jordan Peterson. There's plenty of times in life where you have two bad decisions. But if you close your eyes and think about it, I guarantee you one's significantly better than the other. That's it.
Yeah.
Action beats no action every time.
Every time. Hell, we're episode 30 in this podcast. I remember talking to Casey around episode like 15, 17, and I'm like, hey man, I don't know if we're going to run out of things to talk about, right? And this was after going through a 2-year non-compete. I was completely out of the industry for 2 years. It took me the first couple months just to get my feet wet again and figure out what the hell I'm talking about, because things had changed in this post-COVID world. And now we're at episode 30. And I'm like, fuck, how many more can we do? Let's go. I want to do 2 a day or 2 a week all the time.
Oh, dude. Well, and that's the thing is, that's why I say we need another one, because you start realizing that each topic we talk about brings up other topics we need to talk about.
Yeah, like, sidetracked as hell.
Like you said, hey, you got to pick one, right? We're going to talk about exiting your company or talk about employees. And in my head, I'm thinking employees, because I've learned I do not like employees anymore. Like straight up, I'll never have employees ever again.
Yeah.
I managed them well, but that's also why I don't want them again, because I knew what the pain in the ass that comes with it. But that's another conversation that will probably bring in another topic as well, right?
Right.
And I guarantee we start talking about employees, what's going to come up? Hourly versus salary, straight off the bat, and that's another conversation. I mean, it's just
let's have the conversation. We can do this like Tuesdays with Phil. We bring Brad in once a quarter. He does his bit. He comes
just
in
the
with
tip podcast.
Just the tip.
I don't know if you're going to get the listeners you want. I'm not sure.
Hey, listeners are listeners, Brad. When I'm looking at the numbers, all numbers matter, okay?
No, I don't. I'm going to disagree with you on that, AFW. All numbers do matter, but all numbers don't represent the same benefit.
That is correct.
Yes.
The tip broadcast with Brad Herda and Casey Bubba Lord. I'll let you guys do that one. You just talk about what you want,
right? Because like you talked about before. Hey, I made I just got this job for $3,000. That's top line revenue. But how much did you put in your pocket?
Yeah.
And the number that really matters is how much money goes into your jeans, not how much money you put on the invoice.
Yeah.
That's what I say. All jobs are important, but some are more important than others. That's just something to keep in the back of your mind. All right. Well, we didn't save the world, but we did cover a couple of things. Let's go here. Let's go top takeaways. Let's do a top takeaways on episode 30 of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. Casey, top takeaway from today.
Oh, man. Profit. If you don't know what it is, learn it. If you don't know how to make it, then you need to start talking to people, because that's one thing I learned in the very beginning. It doesn't matter your revenue. It matters what your profit is.
Brad, top takeaway.
Top takeaway is find the people around. Surround yourself with people you can trust that can elevate your lowest strengths. No, I was going to say weakness, but I knew not to say it.
Your lowest strength. All right, and my takeaway is surround yourself with people, right, like Brad, who. So I'm a huge proponent by saying, business owners get it, they know it, right? But you also have to surround yourself with the HR, right? I talk about the 6 buckets of business, your HR, the human resources that challenge you. I've been very fortunate the last 6 years to have Brad in my corner. He was there at the very first time I presented a networking event, and he's been feeding me these little insights along the way. Some stick, some I discard, but it's important to surround yourself with people that have a different fighting position. Because if Casey and I sit here all day as these begrudging guys with employees working junk removal, just like guys in the military, we're going to be right as fuck. We're going to be so right.
Yeah.
But so
all
what?
the time.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
Because when you see things from the same perspective, of course you're right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, not fucking wrong. Like, but that doesn't mean you're righteous, right? And there's a little bit difference there. So challenge yourself to surround yourself with different people. And that's one of the things we do here at the Trash Talk Business Podcast. It's not always about the tactical, how do you do the jobs? What are your biggest challenges? It's also important that we get outside of our business. We use this time to work on our business and on ourselves, not just in our business. So this has been another great episode. Thank you to our listeners, Casey and Brad. I'm looking forward to the Just the Tip podcast with Bubba and Brad coming to you wherever you take in your podcast. So after this one, switch over to that. That's more of a
production.
No, that is a late night podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Just the Tip with Bubba and Brad. Listen, official sponsors of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. As always, I'm Andy Weins. He's Casey Bubba Lawrence. Thanks for coming out.